Page 5 now, advancing Article 5, Convention of the States in the nation's heartland. This notion of we the people directly amending the Constitution through our states is moving slowly downfield. And in Nebraska, it looks like they are entering the fourth quarter in the effort to join 12 other states who have already signed on to participate in this unprecedented constitutional maneuver. It is a movement that has one singular goal: to fix the broken federal government. That's it. Joining me now on the Daily Ledger, Page 5 beat Stephanie Marie. And Steph, half the battle in this process is educating the American people and people involved in the process because, let's face it, most Americans, probably 99%, don't even know about Article 5, haven't been educated about it. And in Nebraska, that's exactly what they're trying to do.
Exactly, Graham. And there is pushback, like you mentioned, but the Convention of States Project is working with lawmakers in Nebraska to help get Legislative Resolution 6 passed, which is LR 6, calls for an Article 5 Convention of the States for the purpose of proposing constitutional amendments that limit the power and jurisdiction of the federal government, impose fiscal restraints, and set term limits for federal officials. Now, supporters of LR 6 got together at the state capitol in Nebraska to bring attention to this effort, asking residents to call their lawmakers to demand action.
I take this very personally. I have been given advice as a new, young senator not to take things personally, and that's a good bit of advice on a lot of issues. But on this issue, I take it very personally. When I was raising my kids, my wife, lovely wife, and I have 2 children. We taught them to live within their means and not to incur unnecessary debt personally. And we have, my wife and I have an unspoken vow that we're not going to leave our children personally with debt that we incur.
You know, I've been telling my kids for 30 years now that I didn't really care which party was in power, but I don't like the direction the country is headed. We continue to spend more money that we don't have. We don't want to address our spending problem. The states have abdicated their authority in numerous areas where now we take the federal dollars instead of doing it ourselves like we used to do. We look for that handout from the federal government. And consequently, we're broke. And we don't want to talk about it. We just keep printing more money. You know, I attended the mock convention of states a couple of years ago, and I think this is the only hope we have yet of taking this back.
Article 5 says that the men and women standing behind me have the power to do something that nobody else in the federal government has the power to do. The power to call a convention of states. The power to actually propose amendments in conventions to the United States Constitution, and ultimately the power to ratify those amendments. And together, collectively, what that means is they have the power to reshape the entire system of American governance. Unbelievable. That power was granted to your state legislature in the United States Constitution.
And Graham, you mentioned the 12 states that passed the resolution, and there are 16 other states with similar legislation pending.
All right, so 17 plus the existing 12 that have already signed on. That's 29 per the Constitution, need 34 to trigger. So who knows, maybe 2018 could be the year that this happens, but there is a long way to go. It's a state-by-state process. We understand this, and we know that Nebraska has tried this, what was it, last year in 2017?
Yes, they tried it last session, and they just didn't have enough support to pass it, and that's why they are calling on residents to put pressure on lawmakers. They're saying, you know, blow up their phones, let them know that, you know, they need to be at least, you know, they need to learn about it and make a decision from there.
All right, let's talk about Senator Dan Hughes of Nebraska. I don't know the guy, but we know that he is opposing a convention of the states. And I blew up his phone today. I picked up the telephone. I called his office, and I said, hey, listen, we're going to talk about you on this program today. If you have the guts, please call me back. You have 2 hours. I gave him a couple hours before we went on the air with this program. And guess what? The senator never called me back. Apparently, he doesn't have the guts to explain why he would oppose amending the Constitution using the Constitution. Do we have any clue why he's leading the charge against the Convention of the States?
Yeah, this state senator, he represents the 44th District of Nebraska, and he says he does agree with the balanced budget amendment, but he has an issue with term limits. He says that we already have term limits, and that would be an election. So he says that there's no reason for that. And also, he fears a runaway convention.
Right.
So he says that that could potentially take away the freedoms that we have.
And we've heard the runaway convention nonsense before. For example, people are afraid the Second Amendment's going to be taken away. But we also know, per the Constitution, it takes 38 states to erase the Second Amendment. There's not going to be a runaway convention. This is a focused convention. I think we could, don't you think, Steph, we could come up with 13 states who would say no to erasing the Second Amendment?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible.
Yeah.
You never know.
It's a no-brainer. All right. So the invitation is out there for Dan Hughes, Senator Dan Hughes of Nebraska, to come on this program and man up. Come on, Dan. Man up on this program. Steph, thanks.
Sign the petition and get your friends and family to do the same. With your full address, your state legislators will know that you really are their constituents in their district. Our success depends on you. So we're inviting you to be part of history. Let's invoke the constitutional solution that's as big as the problem.